This video came about because of a problem I had with AnyRail and how it handles working with lines. I was working on the design of my railroad and I wanted to see how much inside room there was for me. So what I did is I added some lines on the inside and I drew this rectangle and I drew it as one continuous line. So then I added some rulers around the edge so I could see how wide the benchwork was and how far of a reach I had to the corners. And while I was looking at this, I was thinking, well, I could go with these nice angles here and then with, a 90-degree corner here, that type of thing. But I was wondering if it would look better with curved lines. And that's where I ran into my problem. AnyRail does not handle curved lines very well. So with an awful lot of playing around, I came up finally with this. And what I did is I added 15-inch radius curves here and a 20-inch here. Now all that might change because this is still a work in progress. But getting to this point took some doing. So let me show you what I came up with. So I have a demo here. And I have this right angle and I drew it starting here, going up to here, and then over to here. So it's one continuous line. Now if I click on this, AnyRail will bring up a menu that says round corners or curved corners, and right now normal corners are selected. Now I can't tell it what radius I want put into that corner. It does it by itself, and look what happens when I hit round corners. It rounds it and puts the tangent out at these 2 points. And if I go to curved corners, it does something even odder here. It's all explained in the manual. I'm not going to go over that here. So I was looking at that and I thought, how can I put in a curve of a radius that I want? So I started playing around with it, and what you can do, zoom in a little bit here, take a look at this, is you can add points in. So I can come in here and I can say add a point and add a point. Now if I hit round corners, look what it does. It moves the tangent all the way over to here. Still not quite what I wanted. Let's put that back. Then I discovered if I delete that point, I now get this angle here. If I come up here and I hit round corners, that's much better. My tangent is out here. It's not out here, and it's not in here. So I got to thinking, well, if you start moving these points, you can change the radius. So let me show you what I came up with, but first let me show you this. I'm going to show you a regular CAD program. And this is FastCAD. And I've been using FastCAD for about 30 years, and I've designed all my electronic projects. In my former life as a broadcast engineer, I've designed transmitter sites and studios with this program. It's a very good program. One of the things CAD programs have is a command called fillet. Basically what fillet does is you designate 2 lines that you want to put a curve in between, and then it asks you for the radius of that curve. And the lines can be set up any way. Right here I have 90-degree angles. You can have them at any kind of odd angle that you want, and it will put in a curve for you. So let me just show that to you real fast, just so you know what I'm talking about here. Select those 2 lines, and it comes up and it says, what radius curve do you want? Well, let's put in 0.5 inch. Hit enter, and you'll notice it makes a nice curve there. And it doesn't matter if it's a continuous line like this was, 2 lines like this, or a box. It'll put that curve in. Another nice thing is I can mix curves. So here I can put in a 1/2 inch, and over here I can put in a 1 inch. Fillet is a very, very good command. I wish AnyRail had a fillet command, because that way when you want to put a curve in between 2 pieces of track, no matter what their angle is, you would just select those 2 pieces of track and say, put the curve in here. Another nice thing about the CAD program is I can come in and I can do a list command, and I can select this corner. And I can call it up and say, what is that corner? And it'll bring up this nice little box here, and it'll tell me the radius, it will tell me the starting angle, it'll tell me all sorts of things about that corner or any other entity on the screen. AnyRail doesn't have that. And I'll show you about that in a little bit. So, okay, so let's lose the CAD program. So let me reset this drawing and I'll show you how I determined the formula for the curves. So what I did was I brought in a piece of flex track and I curved it. Set it to 90 degrees and a 15-inch radius because that's the radius I wanted to start. Then I flipped it and I brought it up onto these lines here. Now I wanted it to be on the exact center of these lines, the endpoints. So we know this point is at 1212. You can come up here, you can check that, and you'll see up in the corner it says 1212. So I came over here and I looked at this. And what we're interested in here is the Y. We want to get this point on the same plane here. And if you look at it, it says the Y is 12. So it's right on. So then I came over here and I wanted to look at its X. And I got that one right on. If it was off, I would just type in 12 and 12 for the XY coordinates. So then I started adding points. I came up here and I said, well, let's put a point here. And we'll put a point here. Now I have to take this corner point out in order to get the curve to work properly. So we'll delete that. And I came back and I said, round the corners. And it's pretty darn close to the center there. So what I did is I started looking at where did I put these points? Well, this point is at 21 1/8 in the Y dimension. And the reason it's at 21 1/8 is because it's starting from the origin point, which is over here in the corner. This is 12 here, and now we've added on to here. So I just started moving them around until I got the center of the green line onto the center of my track. And what I came up with was that for every inch of radius for the curve, you want to move these points in from where the lines intersect, which is at this point right here. You want to move them in 0.5875 inches. So every inch you move it over 0.5875 inches. So if you wanted a 10-inch radius, you would move them over 5.875 inches. Okay, let me show you how that works. I'm going to reset this. Now remember, I have the piece of track in here just because I needed to know what the radius looked like. And that will be removed. So we're going to move these points over. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply that number, 0.5875, times 15. And we come up with 8.875 inches. So we want to be 8.875 inches over from here, from this point right here. We want to go this way, 8.875, and this way, 8.875. Now this point is at 1212, so we have to add that 8.875 to 12, which means we're going to place our points at 20.875 inches. So we'll click on that. Now make sure you are moving the point. You're not moving the line. We want to move the point only, and you have to select this first before you put in your numbers. So we have move point selected, and we're going to put in 20.875, and we're going to hit enter. You'll notice it moved over just a tiny bit. And we're going to do the same here. Still moving the point, only we're going to do it in the y-axis this time. 20.87. All right, now we're going to take this point out, delete it, come over here, hit round corner. You'll notice it's pretty close to the center. So that's pretty cool. So what I did then is I started working out where these points have to be for what I thought would be useful curves. And I came up with them for 10, 15, 20, 25 inches. And you can see in the chart to the right what those values are. Now, we need to save that so we can use that over and over again. And now here's another thing about AnyRail. I can't cut a line. I can cut a piece of track. I can come in here, I can select this piece of track. Let's just move that out of the way. I can come here and I can say cut flex here, and it will cut this into two separate pieces. And that's really handy. I can't do that with a line. If I use this cut command, all it's going to do is just remove this entity from the drawing. So there's no way to cut that. So what I did was, for each one that I designed, I grabbed the endpoint, held down the shift key, so I go in a straight line, and I just dragged it back to what looked like a good point. And that's pretty much like the tangent right there on the 15. I can check that point. And it's at 30. And you can do the same down here. So now I've got this nice curve here. Now what am I going to do with that? I need to be able to get that anytime I want to. AnyRail allows you to have multiple instances of the program running. In fact, I have 2 running right now. In order to open another instance, you can't do it from your taskbar down at the bottom. You have to come over to the start bar, call up AnyRail, and then start another one from there. So what I did is I made a drawing called Pre-Built Entities. Let's open that guy up. There's all my corners. Now, a pre-built entity drawing allows you to have anything you want over here. It can be lines, it can be buildings, anything you've designed. It can be pieces of track work if you want. So if you have a fancy piece of track work and you're designing a railroad for a friend and they said, "Wow, I really like the way you did that," you can have that stored here and put it into the design that you're doing for them. So let me show you how you save something. So here's my drawing. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to select him. I'm going to copy. I'm going to come back here to my pre-built entities. Put my cursor there. And paste it in. And there it is. Now this looks different than this because over here I'm using a wide line so it's easier to see. Over here I'm using just the narrow line. And then when I put it into my drawing, I can make them any size I want. And then if you want to take something out of your pre-built entity drawing, do the same, just the reverse. You copy it, open the drawing you want, put your mouse where you want it, paste it in, there it is. Now I can do anything I want to that. I can delete it, rotate it, flip, I can glue it, I can add a point to it if I want to change it. If I have multiple entities like this, I can put them into a group. So a pre-built entity drawing is really, really useful. Okay, let's go back here. Now you might be saying, why go through all of that? Why not just draw my rectangle or whatever and then add in the points and hit round corners? And that should take care of it, right? No, it doesn't take care of it. Let's lose this guy. Let's turn this one on. Here's a box I've drawn. And I started the box down here. This is one continuous line. I started the box down here and went up this way, this way, this way, this way. And I made sure that when I brought this line here over, that I had its endpoint be exactly on the starting point of this line. Now watch what happens when I hit round corners. It smooths it to the tangent of all the corners. But down here, it doesn't put in the curve. And the reason is, I think, is because it thinks that this line here and this line here, even though they're on the same endpoint, are 2 separate lines. And if you come up here and you do rounded points, oops, not rounded points, curved corners, it does it even a little bit stranger. Now, even though it does this when you round the corners, you can work with the box and put in the points. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's go back to normal corners. And let's go to this one. I'm going to turn that guy off. So now here's something that you might do. Your railroad is out here. It's on the outside of all of this. So your track would be doing something like this, that kind of thing. And this is the area you want to be in the middle. And let's say we want to put a 10-inch radius curve here, a 15-inch here, a 15 here, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, 15, 15. So we'll start putting points in. I know, when you start working with XY coordinates, it seems like it's an awful lot of work, and it is. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And I've been doing XY coordinates in CAD for, like I said, about 30 years. So I actually find it kind of fun. You may not find it fun, but I find it fun. I don't know what that says about my life, but So let's start putting in our coordinates. So we want a 10-inch radius up here. Actually, we're going to put in a 15-inch radius up in this corner. So we have to move that in 8.875 inches from our starting point. And this is our starting point. I drew this way and all the way around and back to here. So let me just show you a couple real fast. We're going to put in a point. We're going to select that point. And we want to set its X to 20.875. And we want to put another point here. And we're going to set its Y to 20.875. Now I'm putting these 2 points in here for demonstration purposes. Now let's go over here. And now over here, we're starting from this corner. And that corner is 132 in the X and 12 in the Y. So to get our point out here, we have to subtract 8.875. And that leaves us with 123.125 inches. So when you're working backwards like this, you have to subtract. When you're going from left to right, you're adding. When you're going right to left, you're subtracting. Same thing in the vertical. If I'm going this way, I'm adding to this point. At the bottom of the drawing, we're going to be going up this way. We'll be subtracting from the point. So let's put in our point here. And its Y is going to be 20.875. And then just to show you, I know, it takes some time. We're going to look at this point. We're at 132 and 108, and I want to put a point up here. I'm going to subtract from 108, and I'm going to come up with 99.125 for my Y. And I'm going to subtract from 132, and I'll end up with 123.125. For my X. Oops. Grabbed the wrong point. So now we just go all the way around the drawing. So to save time, I already put in all the coordinates. So now we have all our points placed properly to put in our curves. And what we have to do now is we have to come in and we have to remove these corner pieces all the way around. Otherwise, if I don't, I'm going to leave this one in place. See, I've got nice smooth curves all the way around here, but this one is looking a little funky. We'll take that guy out. Round it, and there you go. And then up here, yep, that doesn't work up here. So for up here, you're going to have to place a curve separately. And let's get a curve. And we just happen to have a 15-inch curve. So we're going to grab that guy. We're going to drag him in. And we'll line him up. And how we'll line him up is we will do this. We'll grab his endpoint. We know the Y wants to be 12. Oops, I made a mistake. We're going to grab the endpoint, and this catches me all the time. We want to move the line, not the point. So we're going to say 12. There he goes. And then down here, we know the X is going to be 12. And there's our curve. Now, for this corner, I'll explain this in just a second, but I'm going to show you right now. It always seems like whatever line starts first is the line you're going to grab. When you have two lines that end on the same point, come up here, there's no way to select the individual endpoints. But if I select this and hold down Shift, it should move to the right, and it does. So now I can drag that back, and then I can come back here and drag that back. And I can make them connect by just typing in my XY coordinates. Now, this is all fine and good, but This is pretty much one entity all the way around. If you want to change this, you'd have to come in and you'd have to move all of these points individually and then redo it. And if you wanted to take out a line, you couldn't take out a line. So you couldn't take out a line here and say, oh, I want this to be, a little split this and I want to make it wider, or I want to make these two lines longer, so I push this section up here. You can't do it when you do this as one continuous line. So for me, I kind of prefer to do it as individual lines. And let's look at that. So now I have individual lines like that. And I've already pre-positioned my curves here that I wanted. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to drop them into place just like we did with the other one. Let's zoom in on that. Okay, we know we're moving the line and we want the Y to be 12. Here he moves up. Now we select this point and we have to check here. 132 for our X. Come down here. Get that. 132. There's my line. Now remember I said it appears that if you have lines that end on the same points, the one you grab when you select it is always the first line. So I believe this line here is the first line and then this one is the second. So theoretically, if I grab this, I should be able to move this point back. Let's see what happens. And sure enough. And then I can just bring it over and connect that up. Or I can put this here and then I could type in, look at these coordinates, 117 by 12. Look at these coordinates. Okay, I want 117 by 12. Hit enter. Now it lines up. And I can do that all the way around the drawing. And then that way I have individual pieces here that I can grab and move. I can take that out if I wanted to. If I wanted to do something, bring it down like that, I could do that. I could put in new lines. So I kind of like doing this as individual lines. And then to keep it all together, you just come over, highlight everything, and say group. And now when you select it, everything is there, and I can move it as a group. So that's it for putting corners in between lines or for whatever else you might be working on and need that for. Do you need to know how to do it? I don't know. Is it useful? I don't know. But in my case, it came in handy for doing what I needed to do on my bench work. And it was also a lot of fun coming up with a way to make it work. So as you can see in the chart, the thing to remember is that for every inch of radius, you want to move your point 0.5875 inches. And in some cases, you are going to be adding to your starting point. As in this case here, we would be adding, and we'd be adding this way. Or in this case, we would be subtracting when we go this way and adding in this direction. Down here, you're subtracting in both directions. So I hope that was somewhat useful, and it kind of shows that what you can do when you get a program that doesn't quite do what you want it to do, and you can just start playing with it and start fiddling around until you figure out a workaround, and that's part of the fun. So we'll see you in the next video.